Well, welcome back to another episode of LorcanaChats. I'm Chris, aka Questing for Lore, and I have a story to tell. A bit more than a year ago, the first hints about what Lorcana was were announced. No one knew much about the game back then, but that didn't stop people from starting up a YouTube channel to talk all about it. Before the game was even released, though, my guests for today were there to share the latest updates. Today I'm talking with none other than Liam and Erin, otherwise known as the Illumiteers, one of the earliest Lorcana content creators. Let's get to it. Well, hello, Illumiteers. How are y'all doing?
Amazing.
Fantastic.
So
We're
exciting
here.
to be here.
I know. I'm
amazing?
so happy we finally made it happen. It's so great. It's perfect. And and kid issues aside, thankfully it sounds like everything is under control on that side. So
Yes. Finally got her down an hour late, but that's okay.
For those watching, this was set to begin like an hour ago, but the wonders of having a toddler.
We just decided we weren't going to go to bed tonight. One of those nights.
Yep. We talked about it before. It's been a long time since my kids were that age, but I totally get it. And I think a lot of the parents out there will sympathize. So
our community's been amazing with like parenting and being really understanding of we're just faking it until we make it a little bit right now. So it's been really great. So we appreciate everybody. Yeah.
Well, cool. Okay. So one of the first things I like to do with my guests is kind of get their origin story with the game. Now, I know y'all were making content even before the game came out, right?
Yes.
Way before.
For about a year before the game even came out. Yeah.
It's a crazy thing to do in retrospect. It was a fun time, early days, trying to figure out what exactly to talk about on a week-to-week basis when all we knew was there are 6 cards and ink.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our first couple of months of content creation, we just knew basically the 6 D23 cards. We didn't know what any of the words on the cards meant. We knew that we were going to be called Illumiteers, and that might have been about it.
Yeah, it was a crazy time.
I think we might have known the word lore. I'm not quite sure, but it was just kind of nothing for about 3 months there. It was interesting, but yeah. Oh, sorry. Did you? I could go into our origin.
No. I mean, if you want to continue the thought, absolutely. So.
Yeah. No. It was really funny. During D23 of 2022, Liam came home one night and was like, "Erin, Disney just announced that they're going to do this new trading card game." At the time, I had been kind of tossing around the idea of vlogging, but I didn't really know like what I wanted to talk about. And Liam was like, "Great idea. Let's make content. Let's start a YouTube channel to talk about this new game. Like, you love Disney. I love trading cards. This is going to be like the perfect hobby for both of us to do." And so
low key, super low key.
Yeah, no
chill.
big deal.
Yeah,
It'll just be this thing we like do on the whatever when we have free time. And that weekend we went to Office Max and bought a ring light and put our cell phone on the ring light in what is now like our daughter's room. It stood in front of a bookcase and filmed our first video, which was like 4 reasons we were excited about Lorcana or something like that. And kind of the rest is history after that point. But yeah, it was going to just be this like thing, that's like really casual whenever we have time type of thing.
Yeah.
And now this is our wall.
Yeah. In our kitchen. It is quite literally taken over our lives.
Yes.
In many ways.
For those of you who don't know, like this is our actual like kitchen table. We eat dinner here and then we like clear everything and turn it into our studio. So like that's
Nice.
Small house.
Yeah. Oh no, I totally sympathize. This is my work desk that all my stuff is sitting on, but it is not my work computer that I'm using, and so I have like 3 different ones, and it's all And don't get me started about the stacks of cards. So
definitely understand.
I hear you. I find with the stacks, like you have a stack of cards from a box you've opened or something, and you like put it somewhere, and you're like, I'm going to sort these later, and you set it down, and the next thing you know, it's like 5 weeks later, and there's just stacks of cards
like everywhere, and
yeah.
I can't remember what stack is what, and it's all sorts
like,
of
all right,
craziness.
well, throw it in a
You
box.
you tell yourself the lie of this weekend I'll get organized.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. It's always next weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Liam,
Never.
you played some TCGs before this, or I assume I don't know. Did you, Erin, as well, or?
Liam was the primary TCG player. I'll let you tell your story, and then like I'll tack on like what my TCG experience is, because it's tacking on to your life, basically.
It really is. So I was one of those 90s kids who played like every TCG. You know, back then, everybody who grew up in the 90s knew that at the time it was the wild west of TCGs. Magic came out, and then everybody said, wow, we can take sports cards and make, you know, a significant amount of money, but making a game out of it. And so there were TCGs for everything. Every IP was slapping, you know, pictures on cards and coming up with something. And so it was a lot of fun. So I played, you know, of course I started with Magic, you know, way back in, you know, grade school. And then collected Pokemon, the Star Wars Deciphered TCG. Then there was C23, the Harry Potter TCG, the D&D one. That one.
Did you know the post
Spellfire,
office is coming out with D&D stamps this year?
Well, we're going to buy a whole mess of
Sorry.
those.
Sorry, I saw that at work today. I was like, I need to tell Liam that. Sorry, go ahead.
Buy all those. So it was just, you know, I dabbled in a bunch of different ones because I loved the feel of TCGs. I loved opening packs. I loved the community aspect of it. And then like a lot of people, you know, our age, I stopped when I went off to college. You know, I had other things. I had a job and fell away from TCGs for a while. You know, I would see them on store shelves and be like, oh, Magic was fun. And now there's all these crazy new things going on. And I don't know, it's too much. And then in 2018, a friend, it was back when War of the Spark came out in Magic. And a friend said, hey, man, look, I've been trying to get you to play Magic for years. There's a new set in Magic is coming out. It's pretty cool. There's a planeswalker in every pack. To which I said, "What's a planeswalker?" And he's explained, and then he's like, "All right, come out to this sealed event." So I came out to a pre-release. Got the pre-release pack. Went like 3-0. Won the event, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to tell you something right now. That win is going to cost you so much money." And he was totally right.
He was very right.
I got bitten by the bug again, dived full back into Magic. Didn't play competitively. I did a lot of limited. I started collecting artist proofs, but from that moment, I was back into Magic. And that was, I don't know, 5 or 6 years before Lorcana was announced.
Yeah.
And, or 3-4 years.
Yeah.
But.
And for me, outside of, you know, the fact that like, you know, my brothers and I would sit in our treehouse in the summers, and they gave me all their cute Pokemon cards that really were like completely worthless, but they were really cute. So that was like my first experience with TCGs, but I don't totally count that. Like when Liam kind of dove back into Magic, he bought me a pre-constructed Planeswalker deck and taught me how to play Magic with that. I really enjoyed playing that. I always loved playing as Liliana, and but it was kind of too much. Like I didn't have a connection to the characters in the game. Like Liam told me about Liliana and her lore and that sort of stuff, so I kind of got interested in her. But other than that, like I just didn't have this like connection. I did it because Liam did it, and I knew that it made him happy that we could play together. But that was kind of the extent of like why I was interested in Magic. So,
okay,
yeah.
And it's one thing to note, like for us, and for me anyway, and I know this resonates with a lot of people who are into Lorcana now and who grew up playing TCGs, but TCGs were a part of my like formative experience. For me, they connected me to friends when I was growing up. My LGS was a second home. It was a place that I went to, you know, forget about things and you know, play the game and have fun and open packs and for those of us who grew up in that era and played TCGs back then, I think we have, you know, very similar experiences. And for a lot of people, you know, their LGS or TCGs are where they found a home when they didn't feel, you know, welcome perhaps, or just didn't have a place that they fit anywhere else. So for me, TCGs are a very special thing. And And that's why when Lorcana came out and it had Disney, you know, something else that was special to us, we jumped in.
Yeah.
Nice. And y'all started off doing the pre-recorded stuff. You did,
Mhm.
you know, like we said, since it was before the game even came out, it was like, you know, stuff you wanted to see in the game, asking questions about it, you know, whatever the latest news was that, you know, not that it was very frequent, you know, back then, but yeah.
Yep.
So I'm curious, what made y'all have the idea of leaping from pre-recorded to the live show? I know you still do pre-recorded stuff, but obviously you're
We
pretty
try.
well known
Yeah.
for, you know, for the Let's
For the
Talk
la-
Lorcana.
the show,
know.
the Monday show.
I have to say, I'll let Erin, you know, answer the question. But I have to preface it with, like, I guess that's what we're known for now.
It's so weird. We
It's-
still think of ourselves as like pre-recorded content creators
Yeah.
rather than the show.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we're like kind of coming to the reconciliation that is not in fact what we're known for anymore.
And I'm convinced that nobody watches it too. Like, I know people are
Yeah.
there in the chat, but there's like, you know, 100 people on YouTube, and we have about, you know, on an average week, we have between 200 and 300. On a good week, we have about
Mhm.
300 live viewers, and then we get people on the replays. But in my brain, I do like the math, and I'm like, how many, you know, tens of thousands of people play Lorcana? And then I compare that to the live viewers, and I'm like, nobody watches our show.
Mhm.
So it always amazes me when people come up and they're like, I saw your show last night. I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, he does. He always doesn't believe when people tell him
I'm
that
like-
they watch our show.
But it is, I will say, for any content creator, it's super gratifying when anybody tells you that they've seen
Yeah.
anything you've done, even if they hate it. If they said they watched it, like that is a
Mhm.
very gratifying thing. So anyway, the live shows. Why did we start doing live shows?
So we started doing live shows because of this potential other game called Rush of Icor.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
That was our first episode.
So it's coming out.
Right.
Oh wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
it is.
well,
Actually,
apparently.
actually coming out.
Well,
Yeah.
good for them. So anyway, for those of you who
I guess
might
that
not
was-
be aware,
was that the
there was
start?
it was the very first episode.
Oh.
And so we brought on there was a lawsuit between Ravensburger and another game company about this game called Rush of Icor. It happened before it was about maybe about a month before Lorcana came out, like
Mhm.
2 to 3, like came out the summer before Lorcana. This lawsuit. And we Liam was like, hey, I found this attorney who's really interested in TCGs, and he's going to come on and talk about like the lawsuit. We're going to just live stream it. I'm going to call it Let's Talk Lorcana, because that's kind of what we're doing. And
We'll come up with a better name later.
we'll come up with a better name later. Yeah, you did
Yeah.
say that. He's like, that's just
Yeah.
like
That's
placeholder
always
name.
how it happens.
And he's like, it's
Yep.
not. He's like, and I thought, you know, we could like live stream every Monday night, like, but I'm not going to tell people it's a weekly show in case we don't want to do it anymore. We don't have
Mhm.
to do a weekly show. And I was like, okay, cool. And so we did that. And then like the next week, you know, it was like Monday, and we did a show, and then, you know, then it was Monday again, and we did another show, and now it's a year and a half later. And we are
Yeah.
still doing shows on Monday nights.
Yeah.
We missed like 4 episodes, I think. Like one
Pretty
was the day after
impressive.
our daughter was born.
Yeah.
One was like Christmas Day. And I was like, Liam, we are not doing a live show the night on Christmas Day. I'm sorry.
It's a very
I
special
love the
path
Lorcana
opening
community, but,
episode.
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That would have been a good episode though.
There's this scene in The Social Network where like the you know, the website goes down. It's about this movie about Facebook and all that, and you know, the actor Jesse Eisenberg playing Mark Zuckerberg has this line where
Are
he
we
yells,
that old that we have to describe what the Social Network movie is?
maybe, I don't know. I like to do it. In case people
Not
forget.
everybody
But-
saw
but-
it, you know.
That
Right?
is
Not everybody
true.
saw
That
it.
is true.
Could be another social network. But they the servers
It's about
go
this
down.
website called Facebook.
And Jesse Eisenberg goes like, "We don't go dark ever." Like he flipped out, and that's the way I feel about like the live show. I'm like, we do not skip a Monday ever. People, but I have to say, the reason that I had the idea, I have to give credit here. The reason I had the idea for the live show every week is because back in the early days of Lorcana, I'm sure you remember this, Chris, like from way back when, Hobbies and Happiness used to do a Friday night
Yes, they did.
live stream.
Mhm.
And we would have, back then there were like, I don't know, 8 Lorcana content creators and like you know, maybe a few others, and so all of the content creators who existed at the time would jump onto this live show, and it was chaotic. We'd all talk to each other, we'd talk about the latest news, and it was basically talking about everything we heard about Lorcana for that week, which sometimes was nothing. And
That's
so
good
we
to
just
say. Yeah.
we just hung out. And
for
I really
like hours. Like we would
hours.
be on that show for
Mhm.
like 3-4 hours. It was it was a lot of fun.
So credit to Hobbies for that. And
Yeah.
everybody should go check out their channel, Hobbies and Happiness. They're coming out with an amazing multiplayer gameplay video soon.
Yeah.
You should watch it. But I really valued that. And I thought that was a fun way to connect with the community. And I liked the idea of hanging out with folks. And so we replicated that on a smaller scale.
Yeah, we were going to bring on like one guest a week to kind of like talk about Lorcana. And
guest.
I mean,
Yeah,
right,
well,
exactly.
we were unshackled when This Week in Ink was that's a whole other story.
Yeah. So, and in the first year of Lorcana, a little less than a year, we had, This Week in Ink, which was the show right after us on Monday nights, which was great. And they no longer our show. So we now get to like go until like last night, our show was until like 10:30 at night. So it's Central Time.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the history of Let's Talk Lorcana.
Yeah, I love how y'all take it, and it's not just like, okay, let's just sit down, let's have guests and talk about things. Sometimes, like last night's was the women's panel that you had, and I mean, I love that y'all take it and kind of change it up a little bit and have different focus areas, and talk about different subjects instead of just let's have somebody on and talk to them. I mean, it is, but it's also there's more context around it. So
yeah. Yeah, I feel like we do try to cover kind of the weekend news and that sort of thing. But I did tell Liam fairly early on, I'm like, if you make me sit there and look at every single card that came out this week, I am going to lose my mind. And so
it's true. She said that.
Yeah, I was like, no.
Those words were said.
Anyway, so trying to blend just catching like the high level stuff and then having kind of more focus on the community as a whole and issues that matter to the community and fun things that are going on in the community that might not necessarily be like quote unquote news, but highlight this amazing game and this amazing group of people that have come together. So, and that's across the board.
It's a fun thing because it lets us play and explore. I try not to get stuck in ruts with like our guests or our content, and that is liable to happen, especially since I've been doing commentating. There's a temptation to like every week bring in like a super competitive player, and I've fallen into that trap before. But I also we like to explore, and sometimes we'll do fun things like. One week we saw a dad in Canada, Jason, who was talking about how his daughters both topped set championships. And he was so excited. They did it as a family. They all three got set championship cards. And I was like, that's a great story. That's fun. Let's bring them on. They're not, high skilled competitive players like at DLCs, but this is a family that's gaming together. And what a cool thing to highlight, these young women's achievements. They're in their teens, their early teens. And to highlight to the community that gaming as a family is something that people do. And so and then we had another fun time. We always like surprising people with artists. We've set up like ambushes before where we have somebody talking about an artist and then we like bring the artist in. We did that with Ari Welly recently. So it's we want to create kind of shows that are structured and they're topical, but also where you never know what you're going to see. And if you hang out, long enough, Lorcana villain might make a surprise appearance to correct us on our pronunciation on a card, or an artist might appear that you weren't expecting. And yeah, so anyway, it allows us to have fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, I think selfishly for us, it does give us a platform to connect with community members that we really admire as well.
True.
So we get to meet some of our heroes and some of the people that we think are just really, really cool. And we're really fortunate enough that we have a platform that they're willing to come and talk to us. So, the first time that we had like Zach Bivens on the show, I was like a little bit starstruck and, and the like,
I mean,
yeah.
Goat.
And, and like, even when when Villain comes on, which is so funny because I feel like Villain comes on more often now, but the first time Villain was on, it was like, oh my gosh, Villain's on our show. And, Nick Cole and like those sorts of people. It's really amazing that we have this amazing opportunity. So, yeah.
And, I'm sure y'all have found the same kind of thing, but it seems like everybody that I talk to that I asked to be on here, they're like, oh yeah, of course, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everybody's real
You wanna-
friendly and open, and
I mean, do you want
Mhm.
to talk to us? Yeah, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, are there?
Yeah.
I have to ask, not to put you on the spot, but are for the live shows that we do, are there particular like topics that we cover or guests that we've had on, or things that resonate with you, or that you want to see more of?
I would have to think about that. There's honestly, I mean, there's so much, I mean, doing it weekly, there's just a lot of different things
Yeah.
that y'all
Mhm.
do. So, and a lot
Yeah,
of
that's true.
having all the little different segments and everything is really fun. I do appreciate that. It's kind of keep that whimsical atmosphere. You get a lot of stuff that it's like, some of the interview podcasts, it just kind of like drones on, and
Mhm.
it feels like the same thing, but it feels more, what's a good way to put it? It almost feels like a variety show kind of atmosphere, because you've got this
That's
one
what we're
going
going
on,
for.
and this, yeah.
That's totally, yeah, that's what we
There you go.
would love for it to be like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't know. It's impossible, as content creators, it's very hard to gauge how people see you.
yeah.
Because oftentimes we don't even know, like we have a goal and the vibe we're trying to put off, but we don't even know if we're hitting the mark on that. So it's always interesting to get people's feedback, because it is impossible to really know how you're perceived. So I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that y'all have kind of woven the family aspect into it. Everybody knows you've got a daughter, and I mean, if they've been to a DLC, obviously they've met her.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
or any major event, I guess not just DLCs, because y'all are all over the place these days. So
She does go. She does travel a lot.
She's been on what, like 30 plane flights at this point?
More than that.
She's
That
all
was
over.
like
My
this
gosh.
fall that she was at like 30. So
Yeah.
she goes a lot of spots with us.
It's an interesting point about the family dynamic woven into our content, and it is on purpose, and it's because and this is part of our kind of our goal and our mission is everybody looks at people who engage in any hobby. Now it could be TCGs, or it could be actually anything, skateboarding or some sort of sports hobby or photography or whatever. And the people that we tend to see in those hobbies are people who engage in it a very specific way, like all in, because those are the people who get highlighted. And then it creates this idea that that there's one way to engage in a specific hobby.
Yeah.
In the case of Lorcana, for example, it's very easy to see a lot of the content out there and think, okay, if I'm not collecting every card or opening booster boxes every set and playing in competitive events, if I'm not playing the meta, I'm not playing Lorcana correctly, or engaging in the hobby correctly. When the reality is, it's not even a spectrum, like a line. It's like I don't know.
It's like almost like a bell curve.
Yeah, some three-dimensional like graph, like or shape where you can engage with the hobby as a player who collects no cards except the 60 cards you need for your deck, and then you sell the cards and buy the new ones you need. You can engage with it as a collector who passively collects a single franchise that you love. Maybe all you collect is Hey cards and a smattering of other card art that you love, and you don't even play the game. Or maybe you're a player who only plays with their family. That's it. It's family game nights. You sit down around the table and you play janky, theme decks because it's fun. And all of those are acceptable ways to engage in the hobby. And so for us, where we have a daughter and very limited time, we want to show that it's possible to engage in the hobby. When you have a family, it's possible to engage in the hobby the way, I do. I don't even play competitively much anymore. I don't have time. But to be a commentator and engage on the competitive side, it's also fine just to be a collector and play the starter decks, and that's it. So we just want to demonstrate for people that engaging with a hobby your way, wherever you are in your life, is perfectly fine. And you shouldn't feel like because you have very little time because of family commitments and everything else that you're not Lorcana-ing correctly.
Yeah. It's interesting, I think this game in particular, versus like Magic and Pokemon is probably a little kind of in between, but because it's Disney, because it's it appeals to all ages, and it's kind of memories for some people, and some people it's the newer movies and everything all kind of in the same game. it's interesting to see how many people do play with their family and do, like I hear stories all the time of people that are, they get really into it and then they get their mom playing it, or,
Mhm.
or some other family member. And it's really cool to see it, kind of bring in such a diverse kind of crowd, and like you said, whether it's just, playing casually or playing competitively, however you want to engage with it is great.
Yeah.
Just engage, enjoy the game. If you're not
Mhm.
enjoying it, then why are you playing? But
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
um so let's see. Oh, I do want to talk to you a little bit about, because it really comes across in y'all's content, you're very authentic, right? There's some people that, they, when they create content, they kind of create it because they think it's what people want to hear. It's like they
Mhm.
they do
Mm.
deck videos, deck review videos, because that's what, gets the views and everything.
Mhm.
um but I'm curious, do y'all find that the authenticity that you kind of bring to your videos and to your live streams and everything really resonates with people?
This is such a fascinating question. And we could go a ton of different directions. I'll address the final part of the question first though. Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know if people like our content. I don't know if it's because of what they perceive as, our authenticity or what it
Or if
is.
it's
I
yeah.
hope it is. Um, Authenticity is an interesting thing in content creation because I would agree with your assessment. Like, I think we try to be authentic and show who we are, on a day-to-day basis. And even in some of our like Instagram content and stuff, give kind of people a snapshot into our lives beyond our Lorcana content.
Mhm.
And all of that's genuine. Um, the challenge for content creators is, though, you're always thinking a little bit about numbers, but because numbers indicate what people want to see. And so you're always trying to balance, content that you want to make that is
Mhm.
fun and engaging and you'll come across as authentic in it because you're having a good time and whatever, but marrying that with the content that's in demand at the moment. So, people talk about in content creation, and it's understandable, like chasing numbers and trying to gain those subs and follows and views and all that. And it's perfectly understandable because if you're making content that matters.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I try not to look at it as chasing numbers. I try to look at it as numbers being an indicator of what the community wants in that moment, and trying to in this Venn diagram, overlap what we want to create, with our authentic selves and what the community needs. And in that way, we can kind of do what we want to do and be ourselves, but also generate content that will be watched because it's what people want to see.
Mhm.
Um, and then the other piece is on authenticity. Like, I feel like if we were truly authentic, like on the spectrum of authenticity, we were truly authentic, we would record a video and have no outtakes and no edits and just like talk, and
Yeah.
then that's it. Um, all of our pre-recorded content, has, for every like 10 minutes, there's probably like 50 minutes of content edited out because we're really
Yeah.
bad at it. Um, and we do sometimes we are debating behind the scenes about how to say something.
Mhm.
And so I do think the joy and the way we interact and all that stuff that you get in the video is authentic. But at the same time, I don't want people to think that we're not editing and that, it's not. Yeah, I don't know. I said a lot of stuff.
No, I
What
mean,
am I saying?
yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, I think authenticity is really important, and we are relatively new parents who have full-time jobs and are making content, and that's tough. And so
It's very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, like again, we had an appointment with Chris an hour earlier than we got to start the appointment. And so, I think that um I yeah, I think balancing our authenticity is always something that is something we talk about honestly a lot, especially around like my authenticity with the game. being, being a mom, and my job is my day job is like very demanding, and so I engage with the game much less than Liam does. And that's something that sometimes I'm rather ashamed of. And so there is a lot of kind of inner struggle because I want to be this person that I think the community wants me to be. And Liam has to remind me to just be myself, and that's what people want. And so I think that is an inner struggle that we continue to go through through our content creation journey. And I think that we do just try to, but ultimately, like, Liam and I, we're married. We've been together for 13 years. We're each other's best friends. Like, we enjoy spending time with each other more than I think spending time with probably anybody else on the planet. And so
True.
the opportunity to like goof off and just be us, that's just like natural. Like, I'm not going to not pick fuzz out of my husband's hair on a live show because it's driving me absolutely insane. And so that happens frequently. And so, I mean,
I
it's
was
just,
going to say,
it's
and
like,
you have, yes.
yes,
Yep.
I have.
Yep.
So anyway,
I don't know. Yeah, this is something we could talk. I mean, content creation is something we could go on about for a while.
Yeah.
Content creation is a very complicated. It's very complicated.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I'll leave it at that for this particular answer.
Yeah.
But
I think if it was easy, there wouldn't be people who make their entire career about how to create content, with all the training and the courses and the workshops.
Oh yeah,
it's true.
for sure.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think one thing that Erin's highlighted this before. It was a very like formative moment for us when we started. Sugi, who used to run LorcanaCast and then TCGcast, and now he's the owner of Cato Games and does a very good podcast over there.
Mhm.
Sat with us for like 2 hours after our like third video and kind of gave us
Mhm.
some coaching. And he said, correct me if I misquote it, but he's like, you need to develop, what you need to do is develop a mission statement.
Mhm.
Like, what is your mission? Why are you doing what you're doing? It's not to chase numbers, but why do you do what you do? And always remember that. And you'll have times where you get distracted by numbers, or, the work's too hard, or you
Mhm.
feel like you're letting down the community, or, a myriad of other things. And in those moments, go back to your mission, remind yourself, why you do what you do, and, work on your next project to advance your mission.
Mhm.
And that's great advice, I think, for any content creator, and something that we've taken to heart, and it's helped.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it's really cool to see creators helping creators, I mean, we've all had the
Mhm.
conversations with other folks, besides just like, people being willing to come on the show and talk to me for an hour. To have people out there that share their knowledge and share, like we were talking a little bit before about the setup for this video that I have. I worked with JDZ Quest, and he
Mhm.
showed me how he put all this stuff together, and help me level up some of this. It's
Yeah.
really cool to see, creators being willing to, to help out others, and kind of, I had the quote in the notes, the show notes that I sent over there, but that whole the rising tide lifts all boats,
Mhm.
idea,
Yes.
so that
Oh, for sure.
we can all get better, but we're getting better together, because we're open
Yeah.
and sharing this stuff. So
Yeah, I will say, like, that camera right there is because of Dan from Hobbies and Happiness. This monitor is Jack Patillo. Like, I
Yeah, it's
mean,
true. Actually, these lights are from Hobbies and Happiness, Amazon. They have a whole thing for content creators. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, definitely. It's amazing that the content creator community is so supportive of one another and realizes that we can all amplify each other's voices and help each other. So, yeah.
Yep, definitely. So I usually have some questions that I ask about, advice to content creators. I mean, we've touched on a couple of things, but there's also questions in the AMA at the end about that. So I will not dig into that just right now. But
Okay.
No worries.
Okay, so obviously, you guys are pretty well known in the community. You're very supportive of everybody. And especially kind of keeping an open and inclusive community, which I think is one of the real keys to the community that's around Lorcana. It's definitely a different feel than other other TCG communities. And I don't know if that's specifically because of the Disney IP, or if it's just that Ravensburger has really tried to build that up. I'm curious what y'all think. What we as community members can do to help kind of keep that kind of atmosphere around the community, and potentially improve in the future.
Wow. Yeah, so many answers. Watch the Women's Roundtable from last night.
Yes, that's a
Where
good
we
one.
talk
Yep.
a lot about
I'll
that.
make sure and link
Yeah.
it. So yeah.
It's that's a topic that I think for me especially is really really important. I did when Liam played Magic, I remember walking into an LGS and I was like the only girl there. And it felt like I was in some place foreign, and I loved our LGS and I loved our LGS owner. And from like a board game perspective, I always felt like really included. But from a TCG perspective, it was always just this kind of like community that I didn't totally feel like I could assimilate into. Is that the right word? Yeah, assimilate into. Okay, great. Perfect. And so like I think that realizing that if we as a community are truly passionate about this game and we want this game to last and we want to be playing this game with our kids or our grandkids in 20-25 years, that it is critically important that we continue to grow and expand our community and be welcoming to new people coming into the game. And I think that those new people might not necessarily look like the people that have played TCGs in the past. And so I think being especially on your local community level, being opening and understanding of new players and being patient and kind towards people coming into your store who might not necessarily know what to do. I actually think back to about 6 weeks ago, we were at an event at our LGS and we met a family whose the dad plays Warhammer every Sunday. He goes to the LGS and he plays Warhammer. And so it was, we met this woman and her 3 children, and she was like telling us that they really they bought starter decks for Christmas. They really want to get into playing Lorcana because dad goes to the LGS every Sunday and he's there for 6 to 7 hours playing Warhammer, and they want to go with him and have something that they can do while he's playing. And so they decided that they wanted to start playing Lorcana. And so Liam and I sat down with them and we started talking to them about what sort of decks they want to build, what they were passionate about, what Disney characters they loved. And we broke out all of our cards and we're like, okay, well, if you really like Scar, you need to play like this deck. And we recommend you get these specific cards. You can go onto this website to, buy singles, or you can go up to the counter and Tom, the manager of our LGS, will help you out. And we sat there with them for like an hour and a half or 2 hours.
Close to 2 hours. Yeah.
And
after an event.
And we have now seen this family at every single event at our LGS since then. And they're doing amazing. The daughter actually beat Liam at a set champ.
I don't want to talk about it.
The next set champ. And so
I'm playing Lorcana like a month and beat me in round 4, and she almost made top cut because of
kids,
it.
I tell you, they are on the
bad
ball.
It's incredible.
It was a bad matchup for me, but she played very well. It was aggro, and she just ran me over with the aggro deck.
And not to sound like, look at this amazing thing that we did. Like, I hate when I sound like that, but like taking that time to grow our community, I thought was really, really special and really important. Now we have 5 new players at our LGS, in this family. And even the dad, I saw him a couple weeks ago, and he has a Lorcana deck now. Like, the dad who played Warhammer is sitting down at a Lorcana event playing with his family. And it's like, that's so amazing. And so I think that really it's just, that.
No, I agree.
You go down the rabbit hole about content and I'm like, building community. Let's talk about it.
No. It's incredibly important, and yeah, because it takes time. Especially when you're a competitive player, or somebody who just loves to play, and you go to a league night or you go to a set champs and you're there to compete. It's a different thing when you have to take time off, or take a break from what you're doing in order to spend time to develop and help a brand new player and introduce them to the game. There's a cost to it. And so I really appreciate the people who take the time to do that.
Well, sorry. And to even like add on the kindness that's been shown to us and like to me as a new mom at our store, our store manager would set aside like a private game room that, people can go in and play D&D. Like during Lorcana events, he would shut down the room, and that's where like I nursed our daughter when we would go to Lorcana events, or we would go play in an event. And it was during a period of my time where our daughter decided that mommy just didn't need to sit down ever, and mommy needed to stand all the time. And so, I would tell my opponents like, hey, I would love to play with you. I really want to play, but I have to stand. And, they would sit in their chair and I would stand, and they were so kind and accepting of where I was at in my life, and needing to do that. And so I think that they're just kind and understanding people. That's really what it's all about.
I want to mention one more thing. If you have another moment for this, Chris.
No, go for it.
On your original question about inclusivity and the culture that we have in Lorcana, and I have to shout out two groups of people because, and I'll do that in a sec, because you mentioned it is a Disney IP. I think that's part of it. And Ravensburger does a very good job through the rules and the tone and what they try to do with the game to create this welcoming environment. But Ravensburger can only influence the community so much through their messaging, through the rules they create, the guidelines for leagues and all that. Like they do a very good job, but they're only so powerful. The real people who set the culture are, I would argue, there's two real groups. One is the competitive players that we see because they're very public in the way they interact with the community. And then two is the content creators. And this is not a toot your own horn deal, although it comes across that way. It's the public figures who are on YouTube, who are broadcasting, who are casting games on Twitch, who are creating, who have the metaphys, who are coaching. It's the coaches. Those are the real people who actually, I think, do the most to set the culture of the community. And the other,
I would add to that.
I was going to say LGSs.
That's where I was going to go with that. Really,
LGSs are the third group. They're really, and that's a whole other. Shout out to them because they are very, very important because they're the front lines. But when people go online, when they go on YouTube, when they search Lorcana, when parents search for Lorcana on YouTube to see what this crazy game is their kids are playing, they come across the competitive players who are talking about their deck, and they come across content creators. And from the very beginning, the content creator core, at least the ones that we've interacted with, have been very deliberate about trying to consciously create this welcoming atmosphere and to set a really productive and open culture for the game. And so I do want to take a second to shout, just publicly all those people out. And what I would say when people ask, like, what can we do to keep improving the culture? I mean, it's everything that Erin said, but it's support the players and support the content creators that embody the kind of community that you want to see. Most of the competitive players, I think, like at the top of the game that we've interacted with, there's some amazing people, and a lot of them are very gracious. And we have the competitive core of this community, the ones going to Worlds, like by and large, are all the most wonderful, welcoming people, and they do a lot to set the tone for the game. So find those people who are doing what you think is right and support them. Even if it's, publicly watch their stuff, shout them out, or even just, send them messages of encouragement. Because I do think that on the content space, it's the players and the content creators do a lot for the community culture. I don't know. Ramble.
Yeah, totally agree.
You can edit all that out.
No, I will be honest with you. I don't edit. Um,
Oh gosh. Well.
no, I do if it's no. I like I like leaving my conversations as is as much as possible. You know, it
I love
helps
that.
it helps keep the flow going. It helps, really
Yeah.
really show, what we're talking about in the context, and it's not, a bunch of jump cuts, which always kind of annoys me anyway. But anyway, sorry, getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
No, I do. I love that idea of supporting the people that are in the public eye that embody, like you said, embody what we want the community to be.
Mhm.
Because they're going to be the ones that are going to be out there, and they have the platform to be able to set this tone, to make the changes if necessary, to really work with people that can make the changes, like working with Ravensburger. I know y'all work with them all the time on things, and so to be able to have that kind of direct connection with them, and and be able to give them more direct feedback rather than them just having to kind of glean it from the community is always a great thing. um,
Mm.
and to see the importance of, you mentioned the LGSs and everything, but to see the importance of having that kind of message at all the different levels, the local level and the global level, for the entire game,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and everybody. You hope that it's as similar as possible. Obviously
Mhm.
there's going to be differences between areas and differences between groups and everything, um, but yeah, reinforcing what we want to see in the community is a really cool idea. I really like that.
Mhm.
You said what I said, like much more eloquently and in half the time. So,
No.
it's
No.
professional versus amateur over here.
Professional. No, I don't know about that, but yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's really cool to see how much a good thriving community really benefits everybody, not just the
Mhm.
players, not just the company putting the game out, just it's like everybody involved. um
Yeah.
and we've seen, in the past, so many TCGs that failed because they just couldn't get that right. They couldn't get
Mhm.
the local scene going. They couldn't get, a positive kind of community going on a wider scale. And ultimately, the games just kind of fade away. And then there's large communities, that like the Magic community, it just has all the steam behind it. It's
Mhm.
it's going because it has to
yeah,
keep going, basically. But it infamously has problems. Every community has problems, but some of the ones for Magic have been pretty prominent over time, and it's been
Mhm.
around forever. So there's lots of stories in the past, but
Yeah.
so
um,
many. I love that quote. It's going because it has to keep going.
yeah, basically. I
I
mean,
love
that's
that
why they keep putting
description.
out new sets every like week, right? Seems
Right,
like
oh,
a
so
Feels like
much.
oh my
it.
gosh.
It's so much. The fire hose of cardboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said something that I was going to comment on and I've forgotten. It's probably terrible anyway. So, um, yeah,
It's all
culture,
stream of
magic. Yeah.
consciousness with me,
Oh,
so
that's what it was. You were talking about community LGSs, and I just an observation. I travel a bit for work, and one of the things I love to do is look up an LGS wherever I go. Whenever I have free time, I'm always like, "Where's the nearest
Yeah.
LGS?" And I put them on a map.
mhm.
And then the second thing I do is go to those LGS's websites or calendars. So LGS, put your stuff online so I can find it. And I look up when the Lorcana League Night is, and then I try to target League Night. And I've been able to do that successfully a few times. And every single time, the Lorcana League players are the most welcoming, wonderful people. It doesn't feel cliquish, but as soon as I show up with the deck, they're excited to have a new player there. And it's a lot of fun. And yeah, so just another commentary on the Lorcana community compared to other TCGs, because I don't know. I feel like it's a pretty special thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my local store, I don't make it very often, unfortunately.
Same.
But but they one of the last, not the last time, I think it was the time before that, they were like, because it's the same group of people. It's like 6 or 7 people, so it's not very big. Um, but the last time they were like, if we change the time or change the day, would you be able to come more? And I was like,
Oh.
me? Why would you change it for me? But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
the groups that play this game are, it's just a different crowd, than some you would think for a TCG. So
Yeah.
not the
That's
traditional,
so sweet of your
That
traditional
is,
LGS.
yeah.
Yeah,
Who
I
is
know.
who
I
is your
was
LGS?
like, really? What?
Yeah.
So
Who are they? I need to know. Who's your
yeah, I
LGS?
know, right? Yeah. It's Lotus Games and Kalispell. Yeah.
Lotus
No, it's a
Games.
great little group. It's I love making it out there. I try to at the very least make it for the set champs every time. So I've managed to make the past
Damn.
couple of ones of that, but yeah.
Liam over
Um,
here now Googling your LGS.
Yeah,
I
I feel like I
know.
know the name from somewhere.
Yeah, they've been around for a little
Yeah.
while. They're doing good. They're largely Magic and some Warhammer and stuff. They have different stuff, throughout the week, different nights. So,
Okay.
but yeah,
I'm gonna look it
it's
up.
pretty
I'm gonna look
cool
it up.
group. There's even well, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about exactly what it is yet because they're still in the works on it. There's a couple that is working on creating their own content, a podcast about it, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything, but it's really cool to see other people getting interested in that kind of thing, and not just
Mhm.
players. And I'm sure y'all have talked to some people that also do content. They're not just players. They're getting out there and they're sharing their ideas, and and it's really cool to see all the different kinds of, I guess, takes that people have on the game.
Mhm.
It's like I try to remind people, even if you're just doing another like deck review kind of channel or something like that, it's still coming from your perspective. You're going to have a
Mhm.
different idea in your head of well, maybe somebody goes through this and they say, oh well, this would combo really well with this card from set 3 or something, and you're like, well,
Mhm.
wait a minute, I never thought about that, and then you thought
Mhm.
about something that they didn't, and it's really interesting to see how everybody talking about the same game can talk about so many different things, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's
I
just
agree.
so many different kinds of content.
And it's wonderful too because everybody, and this is what we tell people all the time about content creators and our content. Like, our content might not be for you, but the nice thing when you have so many different voices in the community with all those different perspectives you talked about is there's a content creator out there for everyone.
Mhm.
And maybe it's a content creator with only like 10 subscribers right now, but are talking about the game in a way that you find approachable. And so the more content creators that you have giving their perspectives, the more likely newer players are to find somebody that resonates with them.
Mhm.
The other thing I love about content creation, I was thinking about this the other day, this just because I think it's funny. There's a quote, and it applies to musicals, but I think it's specifically Disney musicals. I think like Ashman or
I'm so
Menken said
sorry.
it.
This
That's
is
okay.
driving me nuts.
Authenticity.
Hey, there you go.
But
It's been driving me nuts for like 10 minutes. I'm like, I can't take it anymore.
You correct me if I'm wrong because you're a theater kid and I'm not as much. But the quote is like, when you're too happy to talk, you sing. When you're too happy to sing, you dance.
Mhm.
And it applies to musicals. In TCGs, I feel like content creation is the singing. Like, when you're too in love, because content creation comes from a place of love, and when you're so in love with TCG that like playing and collecting just doesn't scratch that itch anymore, you make content.
Yeah.
That's the next evolution. Is you just need to
You
explore
need
the
to
game.
talk about it. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
And so I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So shifting gears a little bit. We talked a little bit about some of this at the beginning. The commentating that you do.
Mm.
So Liam, I am, and I've said this to several other people that do that same kind of thing. I wish I could do that kind of thing and think on my feet like that. So I have the utmost respect for you to be able to do that. But I'm curious. So why did you start getting into it? Was it just kind of one of those things where it was like, we need somebody to do this, and you were like, I'll do it, or was it something you like actively
Mhm.
sought out and wanted to do?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a
Um,
little bit of both.
Golly. Well,
I mean, it was more we sought it out kind of at the beginning.
yeah, it was more the latter than the former, but elements of the former.
Played into it, yeah.
I have to start by saying, I don't know what skill I have. Like I am convinced, and I mean this with all sincerity and authenticity. I'm convinced I'm terrible at it. And to be fair, I work really, really hard. I did a video on like prep for the last. Actually, it was for Continentals?
I think it was for Continentals.
Yeah.
I remember filming that footage. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really fun video, but I tried to talk about my process and what went into it. And there's hours and hours and hours of dedication and calling up players. You know, I'm on the phone behind the scenes with Zan Sayed for like an hour, with Zach Bibbins for like an hour, with Aaron Rubin over at my house playtesting, learning about their views on the meta and how to talk about the game. So it's a lot of hard work. But despite all that, I'm convinced that I'm terrible. It's gratifying when anybody says that what I say resonates. So I don't know. I just have to say that right up front. But I enjoy it. But no, so how it started was I think the first commentating gig that we got was
that Tampa tournament.
Yeah, I met a gentleman who runs LorcanaCardshop.com, a great place to buy singles, at Gen Con. And he let me rip a box for him, a first chapter box. And because I couldn't get mine on the first day of Gen Con because of line crazy stampede,
the mob,
death mob. And Line Kana, I think it's now called. So he got a box and I was like, hey man, you gonna open that or what you gonna do with that? And he was like, you can open it on camera. And I was like, cool. So I grabbed a cell phone and I set it up and the floor of Gen Con and I ripped a box. It was my first box opening video.
And you pulled an Enchanted Elsa.
And Enchanted Elsa was in the last pack.
That's awesome. It's like the
I used up. It was. People thought it was scripted, and I'm like, how did I find an Enchanted Elsa on the floor of Gen Con like an hour after people got their first boxes and loaded this back up? It was pretty wild, but and used up all of our luck for the next 2 years on that.
Yeah, we are horrible at pulling Enchanteds now.
Terrible. So go watch our box openings because they're awful. But we're better now. We got the luck back. But anyway, so I like telling these stories. But so I met this gentleman, and out of the blue one day, he says, "Hey, I'm working on a tournament. The prize is a Switch." I remember this very clearly because there was no product out there at the time.
Yeah,
and
it was like November, I feel like.
Yeah. It was like there's nobody could find product. Yeah. And the prize was a Switch, and there were some other play mats and stuff for the top 8. And he's like, I've got some guys down here who are gonna stream it. I want somebody to commentate it. And again, just to remind everybody, there were like no content creators around at the time. There are very few. But we knew each other, and he's like, do you want to commentate this thing? And I'm like, sure. So we took the feed, ran it through like Restream, and I got Brendan B Squared on, and Aaron popped in, time to time. But I
had a 3-month-old.
But there was a 3-month-old. And Oh yeah. And so Brandon and I, we were like 8 hours straight.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They did not take a single break, not a bathroom break, not a food break for 8 straight hours.
Nearly died. Nearly died. That's one of the things about commentating, everybody needs to understand, like when you're commentating a big tournament, like your energy over time does this, it like wanes. And at the end of the day, when like the most important matches are happening, you have to find ways to like hype yourself up because you're getting new viewers to the stream and everybody expects you to be the most animated and you're like, you have the least energy. So it's a very talented commentator that can like amp themselves up for those moments. But I did that and I enjoyed it. And I was like, this was fun and it was great content and I enjoyed it. I didn't think I was good at it, but I loved it. And from there, our LGS did a tournament and they're like, hey, do you want to commentate? Jack Patillo wants to commentate and he's, kind of a big deal. Jack Patillo of Rooster Teeth. And so we set it up and we did it and I enjoyed it. And then I think the big plunge was
we got linked up with PPG.
Yeah, we'd met the PPG folks a little bit at Miami TCG Con that year, and they were doing TCG Con Houston. And out of the blue, it was the biggest Lorcana tournament ever at the time. Like TCG Con Houston was going to be hundreds of people. It was set to. There were no challenges, so it was going to be one of the biggest tournaments like ever.
Mhm.
And I was like, I looked at Erin one day, and it was like a week before the tournament, maybe. And I was like, I bet you they don't have commentators. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they haven't secured the services of anybody to do this. And so I randomly emailed George of PPG like on LinkedIn, and I'm like, hey man, you want commentators? I'll bring back Jack Patillo, Erin, me, great team, bring a setup.
Oh, God.
And they're like, don't worry about the setup. We got the setup, but yes, please come commentate.
Nice.
And we did that. And I think that was our big breakthrough. And for those, this is a long answer to your question. For everybody needs to know.
Great.
Too,
I love it.
I like stories. I feel like people like stories, and everybody needs to know too that like when we commentate, we like to do it as a pair because I really enjoy commentating the games. Erin is very good at interviews, floor interviews, and pulling great stories and nuggets out of players like between games and all of that. So that's whenever we commentate together, and nobody gets to see Erin very often because they're always watching the DLCs, and because of Elena, we don't get to do it as often as we'd like, but it's really good. We do this thing where like I finish a game, I like high five Erin, grab, Elena, and Erin goes and then does a pre-interview and interviews the players. And it's very good. So we did that at TCGCon Houston. And that was I think the thing that put us on the radar of being able to do this, even though we were still rusty. Atlanta came together, DLC Atlanta, very, very late.
Am I allowed to tell the Atlanta story?
I think so. I think it's well known that I didn't get the notice until Friday.
So I come home from work. We have a plane in 4 hours. Like we are supposed to be going to Atlanta in 4 hours, and Liam is playing, from what I know. And we had heard that maybe they needed a commentator that morning. And so Liam had taken the whole day off work, and I come home at like 1, and I walk in, and like literally every suit Liam owns is on the bed. And I just like turn to him, and he's like, hair is like all over the place. He comes out of the bathroom, and I was like, okay, so I'm guessing you're commentating. And he's like, yes, which color tie works best? Just like, was like, okay. So that was on Friday. Like literally we're less than 24 hours from the DLC was like, and we get on a plane that night, and he was commentating the next morning. So that was a little bit crazy.
And huge.
And you did great, babe.
I mean, huge leap of faith, though, I have to say. And I appreciate both. I'm going to shout out ESA is the company that did broadcast for North America, a wonderful company to work for. I appreciate them so much. And ESA and then Ravensburger this is the biggest event they've ever had, right? Like Atlanta DLC. Europe was like a week before, or like, no, Europe was the same weekend, I think.
It was the same at the same time.
Just a little bit earlier or something. I forget. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was like
so
a couple
they're
hours
technically
ahead.
first, but like not really.
Yeah.
But like huge leap of faith because they brought in, I mean, Tan and Grace is well known in the TCG community. Fantastic. Has been a mentor to all of us. But they brought in Brandon, me, Jonty was doing it remotely, Rebecca, and I think that was it at the time.
Yeah.
All, very young junior commentators, all of which we'd tried it. We had, we'd explored the space a little bit, but it's a skill that takes a while to develop. And they took a huge leap of faith on us and then had the courage to stick by us and to coach us and to help us improve. I think we're all a lot better now. But I will never get over my gratitude to both companies for taking a leap of faith on us and allowing us to grow throughout the DLC season. Because what I will say is I hope it comes across. Every one of those commentators, we're all very close, and we take such joy in bringing Lorcana from the space that we're in to all of you, all the viewers out there. It's a pleasure. It's a joy. It's a responsibility that we take seriously, and we work very, very hard behind the scenes to bring you the best possible show. I'll stop talking.
And there's Liam's commentating journey.
That's the journey.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's perfect. No, that's really cool. Like I said, I respect anybody that can, think on their feet like that. And, I wish I could remember who I was talking to about it. It might have been, was it Rebecca? I kind of forget. But there was somebody that I was talking to, and they were like, oh no, this is not like just completely natural. Like, they actually like sat and watched commentary for other things, just to get the style, the feel of it. Um, and even like put on matches and turned off the commentary that was there and practiced doing the commentary as the game, as the
Yeah.
video was playing.
Erin's always telling me to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always, because I feel like Liam is always day one. His first match is, I mean, like I get to be hypercritical of him because I'm his wife. That's my job. But I'm just like, your first match, you're always a little rusty. I'm like, what you need to do is like Friday night or very early Monday morning is just hop onto Discord and just go on to like Pixelborn or something like that on Discord and like just watch a game and commentate what you're seeing on Discord and just like brush off the dust a little bit, and then you'll be good to go like walking in. So yeah.
It's a lot of work, as you were saying, Chris. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yep. Y'all make it look so easy. So, just FYI. Very effortless.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. There's a ton. Yeah, I could talk about commentating for a long time, but I'll leave it be.
Yeah, you're good.
No, well, next episode. Next episode, bring us back. We'll talk about commentating.
Hey, I'm in. Yeah. Okay, so I kind of want to shift a little bit and just talk about something for a second before we get to the AMA questions. We've got two of those. So I'm curious, as far as like the game and the community and and everything kind of all wrapped up in Lorcana, what would you like to see in the future of it? Whether it's like actual mechanics in the game or, we're getting lots of different art styles for the next sets, anything else besides those, or what do y'all what do y'all want to see in the future?
I've been talking for a while. I'll let you take this first because I can unload. You want me to go first?
Yes, but keep it brief.
Oh, I'll do my best. Gosh, people ask me this question occasionally, and I give I pick like two things to expand. I'm just going to brain dump here. I want to see concept art. I want to see concept art for the game. I want to see more of the development art. I want to see it in an art book. Or I want to see it on card inserts so that concept artists and visual development artists get some of the credit for the work they do behind the scenes, and so that we can appreciate the journey of those characters. I want a new rarity or a new type of collectible card inserted in packs very badly. I love how Pokemon does illustration rares, how Star Wars does hyperspace cards, and I do think, although I love opening Lorcana packs, I would love to find something else to chase other than the 4 card you want, Enchanteds, or like the legendary that you need for your deck. I'd really, really like to see that. I love the story cards. I want to see those continue. I love lore. I want to see the game continue to embrace and expand the lore, whether it's through story trailers or stories online or the lore cards, because the story is so important to this game and it needs to embrace it, I think, to continue to be successful long term. I want to see a new casual format come up that's supported by the company, something akin with the flavor of not Commander. I don't want to replicate Commander necessarily, but I want a casual format that opens the door for theme decks and fun interactions and things that allow people to engage in the game in a more casual setting. That is a widely recognized format by the company. I will shout out, Ink. Oh God, I'm blanking out. Britt and Default Dan over in Ink. It's not Inkcast. Maybe it is. I don't know. For the heroic format that they've been working on.
Oh yeah.
I think it's Incast. I forget. What else do I want to see? I want to see more Illumineers Quest. I want to see that continue and in fact pick up in frequency. I think there's ways that you can do Illumineers Quest by taking the same deck that you have that comes in like the Ursula deck, for example, and providing a new villain deck. Just buy the villain deck and then it augments what you already have. There's 1,000 ways to make that cooperative game expansive, and I want to see them embrace that. I want to see a new Lorcana Gateway product that has evolved the previous one. What else do I want to see, Erin? Fan events.
Oh yeah, fan events.
Merchandise for sale.
Yeah, now you're stealing all my things.
Reprints with alternate art. Go ahead, Erin.
No, you're stealing my stuff now. So yes, I would love merchandise. We actually had a whole conversation about that last night on the show about I want a spirit jersey. I want a Lorcana spirit jersey in the absolute worst way. So bad. Please give me a Lorcana Spirit jersey. We have Lorcana t-shirts. Just put some long sleeves on them and call it a day. And put the puffer ink on it. Like, I'm good. Sold. And then like super far reaching, I want a Disney Plus show because we're shooting for the stars. So why not? I want a Disney Plus show.
Yeah,
as well.
Disney Plus show.
Put it out into the world. You never know what might happen.
Yes, exactly. Manifest it. Yeah. Disney, like the Quest games, that was one you stole of mine. And
Sorry.
then, no, that's okay. That's fine. It's fine. I won't take it offensively. I don't know the words to that. Anyway, yes, I love Illuminators Quest. I love co-op games. Being a casual player, co-op games are my favorite like format of games, and so I think that that's an amazing platform to introduce board gamers to our wonderful games. I want in-park events. I would love if Lorcana became like the new Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom, and somehow you could like Lorcana, like part of the Lorcana app would like interface being in the parks, and you could like defeat Jafar in the park or something with your Lorcana cards, or some sort of like virtual experience by being in the parks. I think that would be incredible. Okay, I think those are my ones.
Yeah, more of this.
Oh yeah,
more collaborations with companies that do this in every ink color. You know, like
yeah, that'd be great.
I don't know, and all this comes from a place of love, because I know, you know, it sounds like these are like a litany. These are not a litany of complaints that these don't exist now. Frankly, TCGs are very, very, very difficult to launch, especially if you've never done it before. The graveyard of history is littered with TCGs that failed. And so the fact that we have Lorcana where it is now, and the fact that it's thriving as it is, and the fact that we've had DLCs and we're coming up on a world championship sometime this year is frankly amazing. And so none of this is criticism of what's been done before. It is purely possibilities that we see in the future and ways we think the game could continue to grow, and we want to see it do that.
Yep, definitely.
That's all. I mean, we could go on, but we'll spare you.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So let's get to the AMAs because we're getting on in time. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I told you we would.
No slight on y'all. Trust me. I love this. I love these conversations. Like you said, the whole passion aspect of it. I enjoy this, and it doesn't really matter to me how long it goes. But I don't want it to go like 30 hours. Or anything, but
that's true.
But okay. AMAs. So we have 2 questions that were submitted. I think one was Blue Sky and one was Twitter. The first one is Stephen, and I apologize, Stephen, if I mispronounce your last name, Gettle or Jettle. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Stephen. Okay.
Yeah. Stephen's
lay it on us, Stephen.
Stephen's a great supporter of ours, and one of our Patreon supporters too.
Yeah.
So thanks to Stephen.
We adore Stephen.
Yes.
There you go. Okay, so he says, all you give to the community comes at a cost in time and money. Has the amount of cost you're comfortable with changed over the last 2 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. I remember our first year of making content, Liam and I he came to me and he's like, I want to fly somewhere. I can't remember where we were going to fly, but he was like, I want to fly somewhere and I want to make a video. Maybe it was like to Seattle. I think he was like, I want to fly to Seattle and make a video, but it wouldn't have been Seattle. Anyway, and all we're going to do is stand outside the Ravensburger office. Like, we're not going to do anything other than that. And I was like, no. I said, here's the rule. If we can partner Lorcana travel with personal travel, then we'll do Lorcana travel. So like, if we can somehow figure out how to make a video in Maine and go see Liam's mom at the same time, like we'll go and do the content, but I want it. That is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious to me now. Liam's like, let's go to Indiana. And I'm like, when are we going? So, but yeah, I think that the more passionate we've become about our content creation journey and about the game, I mean, everything is a calculation, and I don't know. You're like really thinking about this.
I find this an oddly like emotional question, and I'm kind of surprised by it. And I think it's because content creation is hard. The thing about it is when you start, you don't know what you don't know. And I'll always say, if you want to be a content creator, of any kind, that you just start and you learn as you go. But as you learn and as you gain an audience, you feel an obligation, I think, to continue to pursue excellence. Because if you're going to do it, and if your audience is going to devote time in their lives to you, you want to provide the best possible content, whether it's the best possible video quality or the best possible audio quality, or the best possible content, the best voice. And so that leads you to continue to push yourself and grow. And the only things, as Stephen highlights, that you can put more of into your channel to improve is time and money. And sometimes there's a relationship between the two.
Mm-hmm.
You can spend more money on an editor or on tools or people to help you create more content.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there's a relationship, except sometimes there's just no way around time. And so you end up giving up time with friends, time with family. You make choices to, live stream instead of going to an event that you might want to go to, or cutting trips short in order to, do your content. You end up spending money that you probably shouldn't on things like Blackmagic cameras. And it's a cost.
Mm-hmm.
And as you grow, your relationship with your audience changes, your relationship with your content changes. And yeah, so to answer Stephen's question directly, yes, the cost that we're comfortable with has grown significantly in order to continue to pursue excellence, in order to bring, our audience and viewers the type of content that we think they deserve. But I don't take those costs lightly.
Yeah.
And there's always
a sacrifice on the other end of it too.
The cost is, when you say time is a very sterile.
Are you about to quote Mom?
No.
Oh, okay.
Time is a very sterile way to communicate what the actual cost is. Time sounds very vanilla, and time could be anything. But what time really is time with your daughter, or time with family, or time with friends, or time pursuing a hobby or a passion that you'd otherwise be pursuing, or time spent reading a book, or time spent, calling your mother. That's what time represents. It's not just time. It's those things. And yeah, so I don't know. I find the question, as I started, I find the question oddly emotional as I reflect on what our willingness to devote time and money into the channel and its evolution really means.
That was so much more deep than where I was going to go with it, but it's completely true.
Yeah.
It's incredibly true.
And that's the truth for any content creator. If you pursue, I don't want to say growth, but if you pursue it in a certain way.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's very true.
All right, second question is from Lorcana Thanos. So aside from just start or be consistent, what advice would you give to current or aspiring Disney Lorcana content creators?
I feel like we've given so much already.
I know.
I was going to say so much, but I didn't know if there was any last little nuggets of wisdom that y'all might have.
I mean, to reiterate a point Liam kind of made before, because I think a lot of advice that we got when we started was just make content that you love and the audience will come. And I will say that's not necessarily true. And so, talking about what Liam said before, I think it is this Venn diagram, and kind of find your Venn diagram. Find the scope of content that you love that then resonates with the audience that you want to be your community, and find kind of your sweet spot amongst those two things. So I think that you might need to really be thoughtful and assess what is quote unquote the content that you love to make, because you also want to a lot of the times the fulfillment not only comes from being proud of the piece and the video that you've made or the podcast that you've made, but also seeing that it resonates with people within your community. So I would say Venn diagram.
Yeah, I agree, and I will start with this. It sounds like with all my answers, it sounds like being negative about super negative about content creation, and that's not it. Like, we wouldn't do it if we didn't enjoy elements of it. And even today, I commented on somebody's tweet and they responded with, "That means so much coming from you all. We've been watching you two since we started playing Lorcana way back in the day. So I can't believe you commented on our tweet." And those moments are like irreplaceable, where somebody comes up to you and says they enjoy what you're doing. So there's a lot of joy in it. But I have to say that before I say my next piece of advice, which is be comfortable with failure and know that at some point you're going to feel like a failure. And you have to acknowledge that going in and know that you need to push through that if you want to truly achieve your goals and to continue your content creation journey. And it may come in the form of, spending months on a video that you post and nobody watches, or it may come in the form of a negative comment somebody leaves you, which you can get 10 positive comments and one negative comment, and that one will eat at you, or even a dislike on one of your videos. Or I think it generally comes in the form of your numbers aren't growing as fast as you would want them to, and you get to a point where you're like, why don't I have 10,000 by now? And you feel like you are failing. Everybody, I think, is going to feel that at some point. And you have to go into it knowing that as much as you may feel you're progressing up front, you're going to get to that point. Recognize it when you get there. And if you truly want to continue to pursue your mission to be a content creator, push through it. Because generally it's limited in time, and talk to other content creators, push through it, and keep going. And you'll keep succeeding. But be comfortable with failure, expect failure, and be ready to push through it, I think, is what I would say. And I only give these negative things because content creators oftentimes, our vibe, like what we're paid to do, what we get rewarded for doing is being super positive. Yeah, right. Wait, you're getting paid? No. No. This channel costs us hundreds of dollars a month to run. Just for anybody out there who thinks it's a moneymaker, at least in our experience, it's not. It is money out of the pocket, but it's because we're terrible at it, though. Terrible business acumen. So we need a coach. But we get a lot of it pays. We're rewarded for being super positive and talking about the super positive things, but there's a ton of negative about it too. And I don't think we talk enough about that. And so content creators sometimes are blindsided by some of those negative things that they encounter after they start.
I was going to equate it to like when you get pregnant and you realize that morning sickness isn't just in the morning, it's also at night. And you're like, why did no one tell me this?
Yeah, right.
So anyway, I would have prepared.
I'm sorry, Chris. These were very long answers again.
No. It's great. Yeah, it reminds me of the book, like when we had our first kid, that What to Expect When You're Expecting book.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife picked it up at the store, and she was like, okay, this is like the book to read. And she started reading through it, and she was like, this is awful. I don't want to think about all this stuff. It was and it was the same kind of thing. It was like the harsh truth about, being pregnant, having kids, and all that stuff. She's like, no, I just want to be in the bubble of, I'm having a baby, but she would probably kill me if she heard me say it that way. So shh, don't tell her.
We will not tell her.
This won't, don't edit this.
She doesn't listen to
You
my
don't
show
edit,
anyway,
remember?
So,
okay. All right. What advice would you give? What did we miss?
Oh my gosh. See, that's why I do the interviews, so I don't have to answer these questions. No, I don't know. That's a great point, really. You even when you're going out and you're reading about, how to be a good content creator and stuff like that, it's always about like, achieving that next goal, but it's never about those 5 steps back once you do achieve that goal, because there's always going to be that kind of thing. And as somebody who just kind of, just started, whenever I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, it's very hard. It's very easy to get discouraged when, you create all this stuff and nobody watches. And it's like, I thought this was amazing. Why is it not getting, and you don't think about it until you actually like sit down and think, well, okay, it's not just if you make it, they will come. Right. You know, there's all the other stuff that goes along with it. You know, the messing with the algorithm to try to, you know, to try to get it in there and get more eyeballs on it. You know, how to market the video. You know, there's all this other stuff that kind of comes with it that I think a lot of people don't think about. And for some people, that's not really their strength. You know, they just want to make content and they just want to put it out there and be happy. You know, but yeah, it's more involved, I think, than a lot of people think.
Yeah.
I will say last thing on this. I'm sorry, because it occurred to me as you were talking. I will say this. I think anybody can be successful doing content. I think the rules out there on how to succeed are fairly well known. I think you can look at how to create a successful thumbnail. I think you can look at how to create, you know, things that target the algorithm. I could think you can copy popular content. Anybody can do it. The problem is that everybody is limited on time and everybody's limited on money. And especially if content creation, if you're not quitting your job and doing it full time, it's very, very difficult to devote the resources you need to and time and money necessary to get it off the ground. If everybody had unlimited money and like 24 hours a day to devote to YouTube and content creation, I believe that anybody could be successful. So I don't want to say that it's just like enigma and whatever else. But the challenge is for us, for example, we need to figure out how to fit content creation on multiple platforms into like an hour a day. And Tuesday night, for example, here is doing this show. And that's the hard part. It's not an enigma how to be a successful YouTuber. It's a job with rules that are very easily understood if you take the time. The challenge is how to apply your limited resources to that how to and to be successful rapidly. And that's where we stumble. You know, all of us.
Yep. Love it. Perfect. Thank you for answering those listener questions. First time I've ever had those two. So,
they were awesome.
They were good questions.
Yeah, they were. They're great questions. Okay, well, cool. Well, hey, thank you guys so much. I'm so glad that we finally made this happen. I really appreciate y'all taking the time tonight, and I'm glad that the kid's sleeping. Hopefully, all night.
Hopefully we'll stay that way.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I do want to end with the same 3 questions that I ask everybody, and each of you will have to answer.
Okay.
No group answers. All right, so first off, favorite ink and card?
Amethyst and Rockstar Stitch Enchanted version by Nicholas Cole. I'm going to keep these short since I talked too much earlier.
Also Amethyst and Honey Wizard by John Lauren.
Nice. Classic. Yeah.
I reserve the right to change these answers at any time.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, next question. Favorite Disney movie and why? You could be longer on this answer, Liam, if you want to.
Okay. I was like, you asked the why, and now I have to.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I also reserve the right to change this answer at any time.
Wait, can I answer for Liam and see if I get it right?
Sure.
It's not a Disney movie. It's a Pixar movie. Turning Red.
I always have 2 answers to this question. Turning Red
Goofy
is one of
movie.
them. Yeah, those are the 2 answers. Goofy movie is a brilliant musical. It hits all the right notes. It is an amazing. There's a video by Sideways on YouTube which talks about why the Goofy movie is so great in terms of its musical score and everything else. Everybody should watch it, and you'll appreciate a Goofy movie so much more. It's a brilliant movie with great musical, and it resonates with me. Even though there's a lot of great Disney movies out there. The other one, I always say Turning Red because I feel like it's a movie that kind of flew under the radar, and it's kind of one of my happy movies right now that's really resonating with me, that I turn to whenever I want to escape for a little while, and I think it does a lot of things really well. So I love May May and can't wait to see her in the game one day. So those are my 2 at the moment.
Okay.
I tonight am gonna go with The Little Mermaid. Because I'm a millennial, and so there you go. Grew up in the 90s. And then also our daughter loves mermaids. Like actually she is like not even 2 years old, doesn't have a whole lot of vocabulary, but she can say mermaid, and she loves herself some of the Disney Junior Ariel cartoons and the soundtrack and all that sort of stuff. And so to get to share that with her, I love. We actually watched The Little Mermaid together last while you were in Miami.
Oh.
And so she got to see Little Mermaid for the first time, and she spent 2 hours going, mermaid, mermaid, mermaid. It's like, yes, sweetie, that is what that is. Yes. Anyway.
Very good.
So.
Yeah. Nice. All right, cool. And last question. Where can people find you and all of your content and anything else that you might want to mention?
So people can find us. We are the Illumiteers. You can find us on YouTube, X, Blue Sky, and TikTok at Illumiteers, and on Instagram at the Illumiteers.
One day we'll get that
for
handle.
For some reason, someone else is Illumiteers
One
on
day we'll
Instagram.
get it.
So yeah, that's where people can. Oh, and you can come hang out with us in our Discord server too.
Yeah, come on.
Which is super fun.
Discord.
We do like fun
Right.
things like trivia and talk about art and all sorts of great things. So
You asked what else. I'm going to give you a scoop that I haven't told anybody else publicly.
what?
And
Have you told me?
oh yeah, you know, because you
Okay.
keep telling me to tell people. I don't know if you'll get
Oh,
this out
yeah.
by the time people know. There's a new card magazine coming out called Card Pro Magazine.
Mhm.
You can only get it through your LGS. And they're looking to kind of like recreate the magic of Scry and Inquest from the 90s. And so it's all focused on TCG card trading. And the first issue features Lorcana on the cover. And so Lorcana is the cover story, and there's several articles about Lorcana that we wrote. And so we haven't told anybody this yet because we wanted it to be a surprise, and we're shy about writing. But they approached us to write these articles. We wrote the articles in the magazine about the story and the cards, and about all the promos that have come out for Lorcana in the first year and a half. And so that is our debut written pieces in print.
Awesome.
And that'll be out, I think, within the next 2 weeks. So go to your LGS, ask them about Card Pro Magazine, try to get issue number 1. There's some cards that come along with it from some other games that I don't want to talk about, but it'll be Lorcana on the cover. So nobody else knows
Mickey.
this, Chris. So
Yeah, you are
Awesome.
really the first one that
Yeah.
Liam is telling.
So you asked where else they can find us, and that's
That's
also
perfect. Congratulations, by the way. That's awesome. So,
thanks. It's very exciting and nerve-wracking.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys again so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me tonight. I had a great time, and yeah, I'll see you around the community.
Longest episode ever?
It's right up there. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having us, Chris. We really appreciate the
Loved
invitation.
every second.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me for my chat with the Illumiteers. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like and subscribe to the show on your platform of choice. You can find out more information about the show at LorcanaChats.com and reach us at LorcanaChats@gmail.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.